Good morning. It's Greg, and let's see, it's 10:59 according to my clock, but I wanted to at least be here so that people can get loaded up as we're about to get started, and we can roll through things. In case you're wondering, since I am, as I'm sure most of you are, I don't get around very much. So this is my brother-in-law's restaurant up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I love to use his restaurant as a background because that's Lambeau Field up in the corner. And it's a happy place. Remember the good times, right? Okay, it's 11, so let me get close to being started. I'm sure at this point, it used to be that I used to spend all this time trying to explain, like, this is what to expect, like this is how Zoom works. This is where the chat box is. If you have questions, stick them in the chat box. Anymore, everybody seems to know what to do. Last year, I taught I helped a friend with a high school class, and we taught business and entrepreneurship, and we spent a ton of time trying to get presentations down and screen sharing, all this stuff. This year, the kids are teaching us a few things. So the world has changed quickly. Today, we're going to talk about bringing LeadGen Compass into Electrify growth. And the reason for this is because if you've attended these before, we have, I want to say 18 or 19, maybe 20 webinars that we've done, but they tend to be very specific into the actual work we do in any particular thing. So whether it's content marketing or email marketing or Facebook or Google ads or retargeting, any of those things, we kind of go into the details about how we, I say details, but we go into how we approach each of those tactics. This is going to go up a level. So before we begin, the way we like to look at LeadGen Compass comes down to opportunity cost, right? So when we think of opportunity cost, everybody thinks in terms of dollars, like where are my dollars? If I give up my dollars here, then they could have gone somewhere else. As Dan Ariely suggests, though, there may be more to it, right? So time is one of those many, many things that it gets divided up on. And when we think about money, I like to think of money in terms of a renewable resource, right? That's we can always go find more money, but when it comes to time, it's hard to recover some of the time. It's hard to, well, you can't recover time, right? So, we have, the way we measure it, it goes in one direction. So that's the background. And then let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Let me pop these through. So we will go through some of the problems that we solve as LeadGen Compass. So some of the work that Spencer and Sarah and me and Bill and Susan and Becky, some of the work that we do with clients. And I picked 3 because I thought they were a nice representation, and you'll see as you go through what they all mean. But what happens if you have just a really limited budget, and how do we work with that? Solo consultant, super small business, how do we approach something like that? Because we do get quite a few people that are just they're just themselves, right? They're the salesperson, the owner, and the trash man. And then small marketing team. So this group has 30 sales reps, but there's really nobody who's officially the marketer or the marketing team. They don't have one. So, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A. If you have any questions, by all means, throw them into the chat box as you come along to it, and then we'll just wrap this whole thing up. So it generally takes about 30, 40 minutes if I get a little wordy and get lost inside of some of my examples. So let's start with this. What is LeadGen Compass? A special kind of marketing agency. So just to orient you as to who we are in case you don't know. Go Leads, US Farm Data, database companies. We've been around for 20 years, basically. I think it's officially, at this point, it's probably officially 20 years for Go Leads. US Farm Data maybe closer to 15. Selling databases, right? So if you want to get a list of businesses, a list of consumers, list of people turning 65, list of people with mortgages, list of businesses with over 100 employees, that's Go Leads. US Farm Data is all farmers and ranchers. So, right, it's kind of that hybrid in between businesses and individuals, but really focused on the farm. People who grow corn, people who have acreages, for instance. As the years went on, we got asked a lot of questions, and we had to figure out a lot of these things ourselves. Do we do radio, television? Like, what do you do besides a list and calling the list and saying, do you want a chicken? We've got to, there's other ways to do things. And so how is it that we made those decisions and how is it that we made these things work for ourselves. So, right, we were doing it internally. My big joke is I love to say, Go Leads and US Farm Data sold outbound tools. So tools you would use to do direct mail or telemarketing or give to your sales reps to go out and meet. But then everything we did to generate our business was inbound marketing, right? Which was these things. We tried, I think, every single one of these as we went on. What we came to learn, right? This is the same thing we were taught in school about marketing, right? There's a pyramid. There's a definite ranking of these activities, and a lot of these activities are kind of at the bottom of our funnel. They're not our highest gain activities, right? Our highest gain activities is when we are out in front of people doing the work that they've hired us to do, or implementing the products that they've bought from us. And so LeadGen Compass really focuses on this bottom part, right? So we help you with a lot of the blocking and tackling that goes on during the day while you focus on all the rest of the stuff. How do we do that? A myriad of ways. This is a small list of everything that we've done and that we do for people. So you can go through the checkbox, everything from Google AdWords all the way to creating sales sheets and PDFs. And we've even done some scripting, helping people from that because we have that in our background too. LeadGen Compass really takes all that, kind of meshes it up, and then we say, hey, we can do that for you especially if you're using lists. Because when I say a special kind of marketing agency, we don't come from the online ad world. We don't come from a branding point of view. We come from a list point of view, which is tell us who it is that you want to be in front of, and then we'll find ways to help you get there. So what does all that mean? All that means is that people come to us, and they tend to have been customers of our list side of the business, is where we get the vast majority of our leads. Once we know who people are targeting and they're asking us for help, right? They're using us for some outsourced help. We run through a framing exercise internally. And that's, if there's anything that you can get out of today, this is probably it. Like, how does this framing exercise direct our thought? And so regardless of whatever the problem is, right, we just need to know where everybody's at. So people will come to us with the various problems. These are the 3 that we'll talk about today. And then we use a few tools internally just to orient ourselves and make sure that we're working on the right thing, as well as we can start to manage expectations back and forth, right? Depending on how the questions are answered are the things that we can do, and depending on what the expectations are problems that we may run into down the road. So let's jump into the first of 3 framing tools. So before a client comes to us, or as a client comes to us and is describing their problem, Greg, can you help us with this? The first thing we do is I take a look at what stage of the business are we going to be working in? And so what I mean by that is I use just a really simple grid. And if you may have seen this grid before, if you've attended every single one of our webinars, I won't assume that you did. It's basically, are we working with existing customers that you already have? Are we working with new customers, so people that don't know who you are today? Are these new products where they're not out in the marketplace, you're just introducing them? Or are they existing products? By placing the problem inside this grid, we get an idea as to what to expect. For instance, if it's existing products, existing customers, right? That's usually quick sales cycle, quick cash flow type business. Why is that? Well, it's because you're just selling more of what you already have to the people who are already doing business with you. So you don't need to prove yourself to them, and they're pretty familiar with your products. On the opposite end, new products, new customers, that is something that the customer is not familiar with, and you may not be so great at delivering. And they're not so familiar with the product itself. So that sales cycle takes longer, and it takes us a little bit more time to figure out than it does coming in with existing products and existing customers. And then when you go with new products and new customers, if you kind of go to the other spots 3 and 4 on that grid, that helps direct what it is that we can, how we're building expectations, and the things that we think will work best. And we can talk about that as we go along. The second thing we look at, so besides where the business is at, is we're looking at the model. Like, what are the sales and marketing tactics that the client is using? And we look at this at a real high level because we use this confusing grid that I put together, which is, should you be focusing more on the marketing end of your business or more on the sales end of your business. And underneath there, you'll see there's these are the 6 biggies that we can run through. And I'll just read through them. It's like, is your product, and this is all from the point of view of your customer. So we try to put ourselves in your customer's shoes. So if you are a business with more than 100 employees and I'm thinking about buying your product, am I going to be more price oriented or results oriented? Like, what am I going to expect out of purchasing this product? Are there going to be just a few people in the decision process? Like, I can do this myself? Or is this the thing that's going to go to committee and it's going to go, go through the ranks? Is it a transactional call where, I mean, one call things don't really exist, but let's just say that it's can be closed in a couple calls, or is it something that is going to take a lot of work and time to get through? Is this a simple issue that we're solving, complicated issue? You get the point, right? These are 2 ends of the spectrum. And what we like to do is just 1 through 10 those, right? So on one side is a 1, on one side is a 10, we add them up. If you're on the low end of the score, then you are marketing first, right? So that generally tends to be where you can broadcast a message to a lot of people all at once to help generate interest. More complicated, higher margin, bigger deals tend to be more sales oriented. And that's a continuum along the way, right? So sometimes we end up with people what we love to call the mushy middle, because it is the middle on some, right? They might spike out here and there, but from a customer's point of view, maybe it is cheap and you can make a quick decision, but it's still expensive. You may end up more towards the middle, and we have to just kind of pick one way or the other as to how we think that which tactics are going to work the best. And then the last thing we do is we take a look at location, not the location of where the business is located, but the location of where business is coming from and how that fits into the website. So since LeadGen Compass does most of its work online, which is where Go Leads and US Farm Data have existed since day one, we're just interested in like the way the sales cycle rolls. Does it go straight through the website, like on my right there, which goes from search to the site to form to a person that's following up? Or is it more, is the website more in support of the rep? So the rep is probably doing a lot of work, maybe it's referral based, and then people are going to the website after that. And then maybe they're filling a form out, but really the rep is doing the follow-up and generating the cash on that side. So those are 3 different questions that we ask, and we try to orient ourselves as well while we try to match it up against the problem, and that's how we're going to make it work. How does that sound? Clear as mud? So let's talk about the 3 problems, and then maybe this will make a little more sense because this will give you some examples that you can work with. Limited budget, those are the dollar signs. The soloist, right? The guy who's out there by himself. And in this case, it's a guy, but I guess it could be a girl. And then no official full-time marketer. So you got a bunch of different reps out there with various attitudes about where business comes from and who does what, and which problem are we filling, which thing are we trying to help the business with as we move forward. So let's talk about limited budget. So in this case, we have a friend who is a daycare provider. And this daycare provider, right, she targets consumers, right? There's a whole bunch of things in there. But when we run through the main parts of what we do for her, she is an existing product, new customer. She's in that part of the grid, right? So she doesn't offer, she's not asking us to help her offer some new service, drop off, drop in, or overnight care, or any of those kinds of things. It's traditional daycare. You got to work and your kids got to go somewhere, and that's what she sells. But what she's always looking for are new customers, right? So she's got a facility. If the facility is at 75% full, that incremental 25%, if we can help her get there, that's where her business takes off. Now, when we look at how the business works, she kind of ends up a little bit in the mushy middle, right? Since we're marketing to consumers, there tends to be more of them. It's hard to go knock on doors, right? It's hard to take a list of, these are all families with kids. Go meet them and ask them if they need daycare. They're generally going to be searching first and then talking to the facility director. Where the facility director meets, there's a really strong selling component that well, we wish we were more involved in. We are really, she hired us to help with the handoff. So how can we generate a few more leads from my limited budget and get them in? And I'll worry about the follow-up and follow-through once people come to the facility, once they do their tours. Tough problem when we get to it. So and then the location, as far as where this is all going to come from, it's going to come from the site first, right? She gets some referrals, and it's never 100% one way or the other, but she's leans a lot towards their first introduction is either they drove by the facility, which is, you know, because it's close to their house. That's a #1 winner in her business. Number 2, though, is that they were searching for it. So when we dug into the problem, so now that we've kind of oriented ourselves as to where it is that she's looking, we need a site that does great with conversions to get people in for a tour so that she can complete the sales process. As far as, is it going to be where does the business come from? Is it going to be more on her general manager or more on us? It ends up, it's kind of a little bit of a toss up. We need to give her enough opportunities running the facility, but at the same time, she needs to be able to close the business. But the good news is that people are familiar with the product. It's just new people that are not familiar with her. So it's a branding exercise. When we took a peek at her business, one of the first things that she shared with us is her ad spend over the previous year. And it went anywhere from like $250 in a month to about $1,500. So what we did is we got a commitment for a level spend, because that gives us a set number we can work with and then she could budget with. And then we started working on which of the tools were going to get her closer to the number of tours that she needed. And so we looked at, it's a lot cost per lead because we can't do cost per acquisition. We don't have any impact over that lead to acquisition piece of it. And the winner so far has been Google ads coupled with Facebook retargeting. So the ad is the thing that brings them into the site, daycare provider near me, for instance. And then Facebook retargeting, once they've hit the site, picked up the pixel, they get back on Facebook. So some people have said, oh, how come it's not Facebook first? Facebook lets us target, people with kids and inside the area, but Google is closest to the intent. So when we can do a little bit of display advertising on Facebook, but we really are looking for that intent. Who are the people that are actively looking today? And then we try to be in front of them a lot more often, is how that whole thing works. And so, and the way she's hired us for that is we manage her ad spend. So $750, $1,000 a month is what she's built it up to over time. And Sarah would probably correct me. I think it's $1,500 as she's gotten more aggressive and more comfortable with what it is that we do. And then we have her basically on, it's a set number of hours that we're working on inside of the month. So that would be an example of the problem is limited budget. And then that's how we run it through those filters and how we come up with a way to attack it. Let's jump in with the soloist. So this person is a consultant trainer, and I was all excited to use this as an example. And we found out that just a week ago or so that he's getting a new job. So he's no longer a soloist. He's going to go jump into corporate America, but I'm still going to tell his story in the way that he was. So he's a diversity trainer. He helps companies with diversity and came to us because he's like, man, you guys, I don't have the bandwidth to do this stuff. I'm pretty busy as it is, but it seems like right now is a perfect time for me to be out talking to these big companies about diversity and inclusion and those things. So to him, it was a new product, new customer. So the first thing we had to do was set his expectations on, listen, a lot of these people are maybe not too familiar with this type of training, which is why they don't have somebody on staff, but also they don't know who you are, right? So it's new. His business is really sales first. It's sales heavy. They've got to meet him and work with him. He still doesn't have a lot of, or any online tools. You can't just go and like check out, like I want the extra large version of diversity training and check out online. So it would be best if we would help him make more connections and get further in the connections that he makes. And then for the location, it became like the site is secondary in how we approached it. So what do we do? So when we got to work for him, the first thing we did was set up tracking, right? We needed to see where the people were, and then we needed to see of the targeted people. I mean, he's pretty specific, right? He was working in a very small geography, a state, and companies with HR people, that's really only over 50 employees. So he was targeting really over 100 employees. He needed large companies with a lot of employees because those are the ones that start asking these questions. And then we wanted to set up a retargeting program because it was going to take multiple exposures to his name before people would start to associate him with these problems that he solved. He gave us a few problems and we ran Google ads around those to direct the right people to the site. And then we had our list, right? So we have HR directors inside of his geography. And for them, you know, it doesn't make sense for him to just call through those people. So we started trying to catch him on the Facebook ad network, the Google ad network, a couple other tools that we use where we could start to display his name and diversity training so that they could start to draw those conclusions together to try to back it all back up. How did it start to work? I mean, besides the initial bump of traffic, I'd love to say that the traffic is what got him the job, but I think he was working on that before he was working with us. So, but that's how we approach that. So, right, there's a guy that he would love to do all this himself. It is himself. And we're trying to pull all the information out of him and build a tool that's going to help him be more effective in his selling so he could talk to fewer people and get bigger jobs was originally what the goal was on there. Okay, so number 3, at some point, sometimes when I start talking like this and I don't get a lot of, nobody tells me to slow down or they can't hear me, I feel like I just watched that Chris Farley thing where he was the motivational speaker and Phil Hartman's like, he's been in the basement drinking coffee all morning, kids. That's how I feel. I've been in the basement all morning drinking coffee. So this last example I want to give you is an outsourced marketing example where it's a lead generation team. So this group of salespeople, what they do is they actually do I mean, I want to say like a manual, but it's like a high-end version of lead generation the way a different end of what we do. So they work with high-tech companies, biotechnology, healthcare, and they need to call into companies, right? Because it isn't just a list. They need to take our list. The reason that they knew us is because they were buying lists from us for clients. So in this, using that diversity example, they would have bought a list of HR directors and then they would have been doing calls into that group to try to warm those leads up. And then that's what the guy would have been paying them for. He didn't have the budget for that because it is expensive because it's very labor intensive. So they have a lot of salespeople. The good news is that they don't really like the business is old. Having somebody go out and hit the bushes for you is an old outsourced model from, I think they've been around for as long as we have. So it's an existing product, but they just need new customers, people that are looking to turbocharge their sales lead generation. So their model is sales first all the way, right? Before they met us, they've been in business and been successful for a long time. They got a lot of people that are selling, and then the people who do the lead generation, when they're not working for a client, they're working for the client, our client, making that work. And so the site is secondary in all of this. So we need to they needed an updated site. So we needed something that would support the sales team as the sales team is out working, but also maybe attract a few people and get a few inquiries on the other side. So that's what we did, right? We tried to help them focus, mostly because their executive team are the marketers. They're the people who know the most about the business, and they know the most about marketing. The challenge is they don't have any time to do it. So that's what we do for them. So we wanted a new site. We give them tools for lead generation, measuring lead gen online, right? In a perfect world, I would love to do a double project with them, but we haven't done that because, and then we focus on, we're focusing on Google ads around the problems that they solve. So telephone lead generation, outsourced lead generation, those are some of the keywords that we'll work on. And then ultimately, what they use us for the most is we're just the third hand, right? So I don't know if any of you are bicyclists, but there's a tool out there called the third hand because sometimes that's what you need. Yeah, you've got your two hands that you're working on, but you really need that third one to come in and help. And that's what we do. So we are their writer, graphic designer, planner, reporter, reporting tools. We give them all of these things that they don't have time for themselves, and we just need to be super cost effective, right? So those are 3 different ways that we apply these tools when we're approaching these problems. So let's do a quick recap on this. So when we have a limited budget, right, the goal of everybody is to maximize the spend. If I only have this much to spend, how can I get the most from it? We're brought in to help solve that problem. We run them through the 3 steps, and then make recommendations and put the work in place. If you're by yourself, right, you just need somebody to help you grease the sales process. That's what we do. And then if you have no marketing full time, or you have everybody's kind of touching on marketing, your salespeople are doing the marketing. If that's happening, then we just want to be the smartest, the cheapest, smartest hire that they have that focuses on nothing but marketing, and we don't have to put as much time in it, right? They don't need a full-time person, otherwise I'm sure they would hire them. So they can hire us, and we know probably too much about what it is that we should be doing, and then we can help them get to their goals along those way. So, how'd I do? See, I'm killing it. I'm ahead of time, 25 minutes. If there's any questions, you can pop them into the market or into the chat box. But the biggest question most people have when they're watching this is, well, that's great. So what is it that you do next if you were us? And if I were you, I would use those tools. So when we put the recording up, we'll send you a copy of the recording. I'll make sure that Sarah and Spencer we'll have some workable copies with a little bit of instruction on there, because I think we've done, Sarah, I think I have blog posts on these. And but I would work through those things. I would keep in mind opportunity cost, but not just thinking in terms of dollars, also thinking in terms of like, where is it that your time is spent? Right now, we are bringing on some salespeople. And one of the things looking ahead is who has time to spend doing the, certain parts of the sales management process if we don't have a full-time sales manager. Well, there's some software out there that will help. And so, but when we look at that, right, I'm just looking at like, as much as it is the cost of the software, it's the time, like, does it free up any of our time? And if so, how much? And then how does it impact results on there? So just like you, right, we're trying to work on the business as much as we work in the business. I say versus and, because a lot of times working in the business can be the thing that holds you back. So when, for a lot of our clients, I think we are there's somebody who's paying attention and, changing things up and working towards the goal, while it is that we focus on our highest gain activities. So that is electrifying your growth with LeadGen Compass and how it is that we do it. I want to thank you for attending, and there will be a recording of this early next week. You should see an email from me with a link to the recording, and then Sarah will put up the tools, or Spencer will put up the tools. Somebody will put up the tools on the LeadGen Compass site so that you have access to those things too. That is Thursday, October 15th. I hope you have a great day, and thanks a lot for listening.